Travis Wayne Goodsell. Okay, guys, 1 week left. Next week, that's when the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, originating with Brigham Young, have planned to destroy you Mormons here in this valley. That needs to be big enough for the church to demand they get the Missouri land to build their kingdom. Even though the church are the ones who have been paying the terrorists who are supposed to cause this. And as Nelson has demonstrated that he has failed in numerous ways to prepare for this event, it's likely that because humans are involved, that the event could also fail and backfire. As the Purim Jewish principle is often a natural condition result of wickedness. For example, Ray Montgomery, if he uses AT&T as his phone service to send me the death threats that I'm still waiting today, I would have expected it. This was supposed to be my fourth and final one before next week's destruction. Where are you, Ray? Did you get hacked and have your information put on the dark web? If he has AT&T rather than T-Mobile, Sprint, Geico, or whatever else is out there. Those kinds of things are a natural cause. Evil tends to commit evil not just on the good, but on other evil. And so when you have somebody who's good, who's being attacked by evil, other evil, not knowing or caring about what they do to other people, do it to them too. And thus the Purim principle, which we just had. And so Mormons, as well as the rest of the nation, are escalating in hate and violence for a purposeful reason. The leaders and powers that be are using psychological indoctrination and brainwashing to escalate the hate and the violence across our nation and in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Stanley Smith Stevens was the one who created the formula to alter people's human behavior and use it as a weapon, because it isn't possible unless the people themselves are purposely dumbed down not to know of its effects. And I told you that I had watched season 1 of Wednesday, in which the first episode was brilliant. Or was it the second episode when she gets to the school? Anyway, at the school, when she's roommates with Enid, she also has to go into psychological therapy for her behavioral problem. Nobody wants to know the cause of why she acts the way she does. Everybody instead wants to change her behavior. And that's Lucifer's plan of taking away agency. All Mormons know this, but, Chad Dabo gonna appear in court today. As well as the 8 passengers now in prison. And I can go on down the list, going back over the years. And so, this hate and violence is also personified on a comment reply from this morning. Joseph Smith, Jewish Messiah, son of Joseph Smith. So, do you understand? Not Christian. This is the weapon that the church has used against Mormons. Calling Joseph Christian, calling the Book of Mormon Christian about Jesus, that Jesus appeared to Joseph. This is abominable. Verse 19 of that first vision. Christianity is abominable. They replaced the Jews. You can't do that. If the Christians of Constantine wanted to create their own religion, create their own religious scriptures, great. But leave the Jews alone. They didn't want to do that. And now you've got white nationalists, Christian nationalists, who are chanting, Jews will not replace us, when they replaced the Jews. See how abominable they are? This is you, Mormons. Every time you go around the world and say, Jesus is the Christ, we're Christian, Joseph Smith saw Jesus, the Book of Mormon testifies of Jesus, you are abominable. You are the enemy. You are seeking to overthrow our government for the church so that they can get their kingdom back and enslave you in Lucifer's plan of happiness. There are only two churches, Mormons: Jews, Christians. Islam is Christian. It's just that he's Islamic, not Christian. It's a branch off. And so on this video, Gary Halasser, wearing a medieval knight's costume, or it's some guy from a movie or TV show that is in that outfit, and he says, all BS, WTF is your problem. YouTube did not flag this. And it was Easter yesterday, but I'm very well aware, yeah, the Jewish calendar site, it was lifted in the evening. No longer forbidden. Bastards. Is this what your Jesus tells you to do? Seriously? Is he that illiterate that if it's a religion it has to be Jesus, even if it's Jewish, even if it's Islamic, even if it's something else, Hindu, Buddhist, it's all Jesus? You know, yeah, Islam and Christianity, but seriously? Is he this illiterate? This is what hate does. This is the consequence of illiteracy. It causes hate, and that hate creates a worsening lack of intelligence. And that escalates to violence. That was all in caps. Your Jesus tells you to do. All caps. But he did put a question rather than exclamation marks. Go back to the shadows, Satan's spokesman. I thought it was my Jesus. Is this an atheist? Because he needs to know what religion is first before he thinks he's going to argue and debate. But this is not too dissimilar from Mormons and their attacks. And it's unclear as to whether Gary is Mormon or if he's not Mormon or if he's a former Mormon or whatever. If he's Christian. I doubt he's Christian, because Christians would never say that it's your Jesus. Because there's only one, and if it's not theirs, it's not Jesus. It could be Islamic. They also only focus on their religion. So, all right. So yesterday, for the Nelson Easter message of, again, death threat, you're not catching on. The church is escalating their death threats. They did it early. They're going to cause it. Whether it happens, that's up to the people that are going to do it. Right, Ray? And so I intended to include in that video the white horse prophecy. But Jasmine finally made an appearance, and so I set everything aside for her, and then she ghosted me again. Jasmine! And so it's sad that Mormons betray their religion when threatened by the church. Avraham Gileadi gave up his religion when the church fired and excommunicated him. He wanted to be Mormon, and so he came back crawling on his hands and knees to get rebaptized, to get everything back, because that was more important than his soul, his honor, his character. This is the Danite practice ever since 1838. Benjamin Franklin Johnson claimed he moved with his family to Adam-on-Diomen. That was the Danite headquarters. There were no other people living there. So the ruffian was Danite. And he said, deny Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon. And Benjamin Franklin Johnson, in the United States, or in the Utah Valley now, with Brigham Young and his Danites, wrote in his journal, I never denied my testimony of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Yes, he did. And this is what the Danites were doing to other Mormons, threatening them to join them or die. Give up the church, give up the Book of Mormon in the learning of the Jews. It's now the Church of Jesus Christ. The Book of Mormon is another testament of Jesus Christ. Joseph Smith approves of this, even though he's in prison, but in Liberty Jail. But Brigham Young is the new president now. I still can't believe the audacity of this church and how stupid they know you are from what they caused you to be. It's all right there. All the evidence against this church in the Joseph Smith papers. And so, yeah, it won't surprise me at all if the church does away with all things Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon when they get to Missouri after the destruction. You'll be too busy working to give everything to the church. Law of consecration. That you won't have time to study scriptures, and won't have access to an internet, because the world will be destroyed. And so, let's go over the White Horse Prophecy, because it's by Danites, not Joseph Smith. And because it's by Danites, they are revealing their plot. And we've got 1 week left until their plot is accomplished. Remember, White Horse Prophecy, Revelation 19, next week. The White Horse is Pegasus constellation. On the back of the White Horse will be a total solar eclipse that will form a cross over the previous 2 solar eclipses over America. Now, this is all Jewish. It's the science of astronomy. But Christianity denies science. The church denies science. And so it's all hidden from you. You read over it in Revelation 19, and I still remember reading over it in Revelation 19 and going, I wonder what this means. And many people have come to me saying they don't know what Revelation means. They want to know the interpretation. And Mormons over the years, as I've grown up in the church, likewise, everybody wants to know. That's the big topic for Mormons. We're called Latter-day Saints for a reason. And so instead, you get Rapture-Palooza that mocks Christianity interpretation of it by murdering Jesus at his second coming on the back of the white horse, coming from outer space. Ta-da! Christians literally believe this. Mormons literally believe this. Just not with the white horse, because in the Book of Mormon they cleverly trapped Christian interpretation by having Jesus come down without a flying white horse on the very same date. That's Revelation 19, that 3 Nephi 11 is. That's the death sign in heaven. But Mormons don't see it because they call it literal history because of Constantine and the abomination of Christianity. And so, 19 July 1840 is Joseph's version. This is not that. But they took it from that and turned it into a Danite plot instead, which is what Joseph is warning in his 19 July 1840 talk, exposing Brigham Young as the leader of the Danites. And so when you're doing research and you find an old document of the church, that's what you need to do. Who's the author? Who is he? And you find out he's a Danite. And so now you have to understand what he says in the understanding and interpretation of a Danite. Not Joseph Smith with Christianity, because it wasn't the case. You will bias your interpretation of the white horse prophecy and get it wrong. And everybody gets it wrong. I'm the only one who knows this information. This is why I wanted to give it to you. And I get my source from Ogden Kraut, and so I struggled to find where on his website the actual prophecy was, and it's 192 pages turned over into a Word program. So bear with me as I search for it. But yeah, he says the prophecy was in the possession of Patriarch John Smith, son of Hiram Smith. And so there's John Smith, and there's Joseph Fielding Smith Sr., who came with Heber C. Kimball and their mother. And I've gone over why, because they're going to be the real Holy Grail bloodline for the latter-day Messiah Ben David. Messiah Ben Joseph video? Come on, guys. Jewish. Keep up. It's crunch time here. I started doing little quick videos. Made Simple is the title of them. And I had a playlist and put it on the home page for you to help you in this cramming process. But I'm very well aware that if you're brand new, you're not going to get all the information prior to next week. Assuming that Nelson doesn't fail again. But you shouldn't be living your life not caring what happens. You're supposed to be prepared in case something does happen. That's why I warn you, stay away from the Salt Lake downtown at least. Go visit friends and family away if possible. You know, I don't know the broad spectrum of the destruction, if it's just going to be centered in Utah, or if they're going to take advantage of the eclipse and do some bombing there too. Islam did on October 7th. They not only did the one attack, but then they also did the people who were celebrating the whatever festival as well. And so I used that as a pattern, because the Danites used that same pattern in their attacks and war in 1838. Learning from the past, not repeating the past. And so apparently it was presented to Edwin Rushton, the original recorder of the prophecy, which is strange. But yeah, as I have to dig it out now. As the other son of Hiram is the one who reveals this same plot, but doesn't go over the white horse. He instead talks about the government being given to the church, i.e. Jesus from Lucifer. And that Mormons won't know it. And so this one would seem to be involving the violent portion of it in order to get the transfer made to the church. And then the copy is now in the possession of Ralph G. Smith, great-grandson of Patriarch Hiram Smith, brother of the prophet, and is highly esteemed. Ogden. Don't use emotional words. You turn me off because you're not being logically scientific with factual information. That's why the news is pissing me off lately. All news. They want responses. They want people to share their feelings. And that's not news. It's an attempt to guilt trip you into accepting whatever they tell you so that they can manipulate agendas and manipulate elections. Okay, so now the search for the actual prophecy. He's referring to all these different people who's talking about it instead. And I know Ogden Kraut's got it, because the Wikipedia page says he's got it in his possession and has given commentary on it. That's this commentary. And I wish I could find, should I stop the video and see if I can try one more time to just find the text only? Let's do this. Alrighty, I got it. John J. Roberts version. And also it had the original photocopies of the original document. Awesome. That's how you confirm. So, on about the 6th day of May, 1843, a grand review of the Nauvoo Legion was held in Nauvoo. He's claiming that he heard Joseph Smith say this, and this is his telling of it, so that you understand. The prophet Joseph Smith complimented them for their good discipline and evolutions performed. The weather being hot, he called for a glass of water. With the glass of water in hand, in hands, he said, I will drink to your toast to the overthrow of the mobocrats. The Danites. This is how you know whether it's Joseph Smith's actual words or whether he's saying that Joseph Smith is saying things, because that's what the Danites did in 1838. Joseph Smith said this. Joseph Smith said to do this. Joseph Smith said hand over your wife. Joseph Smith said to hand over your daughters who are underage. Joseph Smith said I have to murder you if you don't join our fight, etc., etc. If you don't accept the name change. And which he did in language as follows. Here's wishing they were in the middle of the sea in a stone canoe with iron paddles, and that a shark swallow the canoe and the devil swallow the shark, and himself locked up in the northwest corner of hell, the key lost and a blind man hunting for it. Yeah, this does not sound like Joseph Smith. This is a linguistic pattern of somebody else. The next morning, a man who heard the prophet give the toast here referred to visited the mansion of the prophet, and so abused him with bad language that he was ordered out by the prophet. Yeah, Mormons still continue to do that. Eye itches. It was while the two were out that my attention was attracted to them, and hearing the man speaking in a loud tone of voice, I went towards them, and the man finally leaving. There were then present the prophet Joseph Smith, Theodore Turley, and myself, Edwin Rushton, as reported by John J. Roberts. The prophet began talking to us of the mobbings and drivings, the persecutions we as a people had endured. See, both of these guys, they're Danites. They were involved in getting Joseph Smith blamed and locked up in Liberty Jail and cooing the church and threatening Mormons and the war and the murder and the rape and the lies and the theft and all that. But he said, we will have worse things to see. Our persecutors will have all the mobbings they want. So Joseph Smith's 19 July 1840 says Brigham Young and his Danites are going to be the latter-day cause too. Okay? And so we've got a section 117 alert going on here with the White Horse Prophecy. Are you sure Joseph Smith was the leader of the Danites when he's condemning Newell K. Whitney of being a part of the Danites? Somebody should have thought of that when they wrote about it for the 1876 Doctrine and Covenants. While this conversation was going on, we stood by his south wicker gate in a triangle. Turning to me, he said, I want to tell you something. In the future, I will speak in parables like unto John the Revelator. Little did I then think the prophet of the Lord would soon be slain in cold blood. Continue, he said. You will go to the Rocky Mountains, and you will see a great and mighty people established. Yeah, Danites. This is not Joseph. I see one mighty and strong in this wording. which I will call the white horse of peace and safety. Really? Mormons, Danites, led by Brigham Young, with the white horse. Well, it's Jesus on the back of the white horse, so is it Brigham? See what these Danites are doing? You bastards. When the prophet said, "You will see," I asked him where he would be at that time. He answered, "I shall never go there. Your enemies will continue to follow you with persecutions, and they will make obnoxious laws against you in Congress to destroy the white horse." Utah? But Danites are in charge of the government here. Governor Cox is a direct descendant, fourth great-grandson, because he's young, of a Danite in the ledger, in the war. You're saying that he's doing corrupt laws? He just signed over 100 new laws. Not Governor Cox. But you will have a friend or two to defend you and throw out the worst parts of the law. I would like to really know when this was written. I'm thinking later in the 1800s, if I remember seeing it, but regardless. Because the context of history of Brigham Young in this valley would also play a part in what's being said here. Because knowing that the United States took over Brigham Young's land in 1848 with the secession of Mexico, and then in 1849, Brigham Young started the Perpetual Immigration Fund to human traffic Mormons to the valley, which included sex trafficking, because in 1852 he began to order all to practice polygamy. And missionary work was involving converting wives to the church. I don't remember doing that on my mission. I really don't. My dad told me not to. But I will admit, there were several very attractive women out there. Had to turn them away. Had to just turn it off. Because men can do that. You must continue to petition Congress all the time, but they will treat you like strangers and aliens, and they will not give you your rights, but will govern you with strangers and commissioners. Yeah, this is after, because that's exactly what Brigham Young did. He murdered and chased out any of the federal appointees in government in the territory of Utah after being dethroned as governor even. He just could not behave. So yeah, I do see that in here, turning it into a prophecy to justify murdering and chasing out the federal leaders. You will see the Constitution of the United States almost destroyed. It will hang like a thread. Seriously, guys, the hang by a thread is this, not Joseph Smith's brink of ruin. Oh my hell. All my decades, my whole life, everybody's saying, hang by a thread. And it comes from the white horse prophecy. So yeah, this is the source origin for hang by a thread rather than brink of ruin. Oh my hell. and that thread as fine as the finest silk fiber from China. At this point, the prophet's countenance became sad, because he said, "I love the Constitution. It was made by the inspiration of God. So why are you trying to overthrow it and destroy America?" See what they're doing? They're claiming the United States are the bad guys to destroy America, and then claim a constitution that is completely contrary to the original Constitution. And since Mormons won't have access to the internet or documents, church can tell you whatever they want to tell you, and you'll believe them because you're forced to, with the threat of death, because you'll be their slaves. And it will be preserved and saved by the efforts of the white horse and by the red horse, who will combine in its defense. Are you talking about North Korea and China? I just got the picture yesterday. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, the different color horses. This is where I see him getting it, rather than Revelation 19 now. By throwing in the red horse, he's diverted away from Revelation 19 and to the horsemen of the apocalypse. So let's find which Revelation passage that is referring to. Metallica. The four horsemen. Let's see, the red horse. Red horse in Zechariah. I saw by night and beheld a man riding upon a red horse, and he stood among the myrtle trees that were in the bottom, and behold, and behind him were there red horses, speckled in white. Which horses run free. But in Revelation, most of them, there's several of them in Zechariah 6. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, and it were the noise of thunder and of four beasts saying, "Come and see." So now that this has already happened, I now see how it happened. Interesting. Because I know who the Lamb is. And thus I know what I opened. A seal is a document that has the seal on it, and you have to break open the seal and then read the contents of the papyrus scroll. I've done that. Learning of the Jews, not learning of Christians, that has sealed the Jewish documents shut. I have opened the Jewish documents and am reading to you in the interpretation of the Jews. Just in case I know there's going to be somebody who's going to ask. And so, the white horse, red horse, black horse. So Revelation 6. Cool. So you just got more exclusive information as I opened the seals for you. Alright. The white horse will raise an ensign on the tops of the mountains of peace and safety. Oh my God, no. Then I'd sure like to boast about what won't happen. We're the greatest! We're cool! Excuse me. Oh my God. Where all nations may flee unto for safety. They're claiming this valley is not going to be destroyed on 8 April 2024. That's interesting. That's interesting. I see Senator Lee. I see what you're doing here, Lee. The white horse will find the mountains full of minerals. You mean uranium and bear's ears for Putin? God, they've begun that again. And they will become rich. Senator Lee. We would like to import rich people, people from other countries to come to Utah, America. And that's why the housing crisis, with the housing so expensive here in Utah, they're purposely kicking out the poor to make us rich, or only have the rich remain. And because that's failing, they've got to destroy the place, move on. The test, likewise, attests to this. Heber C. Kimball. You will see silver piled up in the streets. Seriously? The church doesn't put their money on the streets. They hide it from us. Dear God, at this time, it must be remembered that it was not known that the precious metals existed either in the Rocky Mountains or in California. Right? There's an author revealing the date of when he's making this all up. That's one of the tells. You will see the gold shoveled up like sand. Gold will be of little value, even in the mercantile capacity, for the people of the world will have something else to do in seeking for salvation. The time will come when the banks of every nation will fall. Yeah, that was 2008, wasn't it, Monson? Or shall I say Shurtleff? Purim. The Purim Principle. Yeah, there's a lot of backstory that I know about that if you're new, you don't know about. And only two places will be safe where people can deposit their gold and silver: Deutsche Bank and Zion's Bank. The place will be the White Horse and England's vaults. Oh, oops. England's vaults are the Rothschilds. Because Nathan took over and went to war against America and the Napoleon War in 1812. Because our Congress did away with Nathan's bank, central bank here in America. That was the cause of the war. And he paid for the war. And so, yeah, he's talking about the enemy, the Illuminati. Hilarious. The Illuminati Bank of the Nathan Rothschild and the White Horse, Utah, the Danites. Oh my God. I've done these videos, I've gone over the explanations. You need to understand this. Do not come to my channel thinking you're going to explain this to me. You will be wrong. You are not using the learning of the Jews. You are not using the real history of the church. You are not using the real history of America, etc., etc., etc. Do not make the attempt. You're going to do it anyway. A terrible revolution will take place in the land of America. And so this was after Civil War even. So he's talking about the latter days as a second Civil War, such as never been seen before, for the land will be left without a supreme government, federal government, destroyed this election, officially destroyed this election, unless the 9/11 event on next week, on Monday, will also take out the federal government, like dropping the bomb on DC. And every species of wickedness will run rampant. Yeah, we're already witnessing that. I told you this last night. Things are going to escalate. Businesses are going to get more corrupt. They're going to get more greedy. It's going to cause suffering for the people. People are going to be forced to have to steal and cheat and lie and murder, just like the Noah syndrome, King Noah in the Book of Mormon. Because of his wickedness, the people had to be wicked in order to survive. In the beginning, it was, okay, we can do this and there's no crime against it. Yeah. But it's going to escalate before the election. And I'm already witnessing many of these types of things that are happening. As Albert Pike said, he's going to purposely cause a social cataclysm. And so what do we call it? Social media. All of this is their plot to overthrow this government and overthrow the world and cause the destructions and the bloodshed, most terrible scenes of murder and bloodshed and rapine that have ever been looked upon will take place. As I skipped, it will be so terrible that father will be against son. Yeah. But that was the church threatening him, as well as my mother, to throw me down the river. And mother against daughter, and son against father, mother against daughter, daughter against mother. And mother against son, son against mother, father against daughter, daughter against father. Can't we all just watch porn? Everybody gets along in porn. Why can't we watch porn? Calm everybody down. Make love, not war. Yeah, and evangelicals got pissed and decided to destroy those hippies. Orgy hippies. Peace will be taken from the earth, and there will be no peace. Only in the Rocky Mountains, the white horse. This will cause many hundreds and thousands of honest and heart of the world to gather there. Yeah. They're not talking about Missouri. He's trying to claim that this is Zion and it will never be destroyed. Unfortunately, it is one of Nelson's failures. Which is why Plan B, destroy it and go back to Missouri, which that was Brigham Young's claim, that we were going back to Missouri, and others support that. So this contradicts it, and they both contradict Joseph Smith, because it's not the learning of the Jews. They're using Christianity as a cover for their intentions. And because they would not take up sword against their neighbors. Seriously, Mormons are the most vicious of murderers. Got the 8 passengers woman in prison. Chad Daybell's going on trial today. I guess mostly for jury selection or whatever, but still, that's now beginning. And his mistress, adulteress, Lori Vallow, she's now in prison. So, and Brian David Mitchell, and Ted Bundy, and John D. Lee, right, Senator Lee? You wanted to be just like them, overthrow the election results, just like your third great grandfather. You will become so numerous, 3 million, that you will be in danger of famine. Interesting. The church did cause this. Thanks for confirming this. But not for want of seed time and harvest, but that so many will have to be fed. Yeah, during COVID, the farmers just destroyed all their crops because of the way the system was set up. Those that went to the businesses that shut down were destroyed, instead of trying to sell them to the grocery stores to get to the people. And so a whole bunch of food was wasted. I remember seeing Idaho potatoes all piled up, rotting. Dear God, what are you doing? It's abominable. Idaho potato, that's all you need. It is the superfood because of the the lava rock that's there. It's very rich in soil nutrients, and so yeah, Idaho potatoes are just the best in the world because of that. We're going to need to bring that soil to southern Illinois. We must preserve the Idaho spud. Many will come with bundles under their arms to escape calamities. So yeah, trial of faith, you in Brazil, he's talking about you. This is what I've been telling everybody, is that when the church is destroyed, the church will resettle in Missouri, and Mormons will know to go there. That's where they know to go. Now currently, because the church isn't destroyed, Mormons are creating things, speculation, as to having both Missouri and Utah. And I was a part of that, I admit it. I remember questioning, how's this going to happen? We're supposed to go back to Missouri, so what's going to happen to Salt Lake City? Why? And I couldn't find the answers anywhere. Because the church won't tell us. And so yeah, that's what will happen, is that he's saying that because of the worldwide war after the government of America falls, that Mormons around the world will say, I'm out, I'm going to Zion. There is no call by the church to come to Zion, notice. Heber C. Kimball says the missionaries will be called home when they leave to go to Missouri. So they're not getting their plot straight here, sort of like Willard Richards and John Taylor in their claims about what happened in Carthage jail. They both contradicted each other, and both of their statements were false. And thus escape by fleeing to Zion. And I remember Frederick talking to him about this, trying to get him to wait for this moment to know when to leave. And apparently you got your own apartment now, don't you? That's good. And I hope you're doing okay. I did see your comments the previous couple of days ago. Those that come to you will try to keep the laws and be one with you, for they will see your unity and the greatness of your organization. Good God. it's Thomas B. Marsh. He was impoverished, and so he too sold his soul, went crawling back to Brigham Young in the valley here, and said that he was whipped and beaten, and that anybody who tries to leave the church will likewise be beaten and whipped. And so, yeah, he lived out the rest of his life. What was it, Paradise Valley or wherever? Pleasantville. But yeah, he never obeyed polygamy. He just came to retire, to be taken care of. And so, yeah, his economic failures as he's reaching retirement age, where it's not likely he's going to be taken care of, because the Social Security was not established until the 1900s. And I'm thinking, in my day and time, it was post-World War II, wasn't it? Can't remember. I'm not going to look it up. We're already at an hour now. And we are only halfway done on the page. So this is interesting. He says the Turkish Empire, which Aragon is overthrown. Isn't he Turkey, or is that Syria? I think it's Turkey. So I guess now we got to look up the internet. I noticed so far I'm not being hacked by anybody. Knock on wood. Come on. Yeah, Turkey. Wikipedia has not caught up yet. I saw it on the news this morning. Huh. Uh-huh. Okay, what was the other one that I refused to check? I'm not seeing it, so I don't remember. Alright. Will be one of the first powers to be disrupted as a power. They also had the earthquake last year, wasn't it? The church was giving their prayers and sympathies, thoughts and prayers, and aid to Turkey, but not to Israel, only to Islam, as freedom must be given for the gospel to be preached in the Holy Land. The Turkish Empire is not the Holy Land, so you're going way back in time. Although the Turkish Empire may have been occupying that land back then. (1683) is the Ottoman Empire. Founded 1299. So yeah, you're, dear God. Who was in control of the Middle East in the 1800s? In the 1700s and 1800s, the once powerful Ottoman Empire starts to lose power on the hunt for new territories to conquer. Great Britain, France, and Russia begin to interfere in the affairs and territories of the Ottoman Empire, as well as in Egypt. Interesting. So So why are you calling it the Turkish Empire when it's called the Ottoman Empire? Early modern Near East. Okay, the Ottoman Empire fell in 1918. Okay, so it still was, but it was weakening because of the various other countries. Okay. Gotta confirm what these guys are saying. You can't just assume that they're correct. The Lord took of the best blood of the nations and planted them on the small island now called England. Again, Nathaniel Rothschild with England now the best blood of the nations. That's a white supremacy claim there. Of Great Britain, and gave them great powers in the nations for 1,000 years. White power, dear God. And this power will continue with them. That they may keep the balance of power, that they will keep Russia from usurping power over the world, over all the world. Yeah, Brigham went to England to turn against Joseph. Interesting. Well, England and France are now bitter enemies, but they will be allied together in order to keep Russia from conquering the world. Yep, the war against Ukraine. There it is. The two popes, Greek and Catholic. I had a class with a Greek Orthodox woman. I really liked her, and she really liked me too. I could tell, and I couldn't, because the religious differences would have screwed things up. But very attractive. Walked to the track station after class. I'm sure she's married to a good Greek Orthodox boy now. I hope so. That was, dear God, that was in the mid 2000s. And so, yeah, 20 years ago. The two popes of the Greek and Catholic Church will come together and be united. That has yet to happen. Though the Pope is having health problems, the Protestant religions do not know how much they are indebted to Henry VIII. Henry VIII, I am. For throwing off the Pope's bull and establishing the Protestant faith. It's still Christian, it's still anti-Semitic. He was the only monarch who could do so at the time, and he did it because the nation was at his back to sustain him. One of the peculiar features in England is the established red coat, a uniform. So, why are we going into the red coats of England? To shoot at. And yet, they have conquered wherever they have gone. The reason for this will be known by them someday. We all know why. Because we saw Mel Gibson's The Patriot. You have to play by their rules in war so that they can win. If you don't play by their rules in war, you can win. And so when it's wartime, you don't play by rules. You gotta fight for your life and existence. You cannot be the enemy in war. The lion and the unicorn of England is the ensign of Israel. Yeah, he's trying to use symbols, as the white horse is a symbol. In case you hadn't caught on, it's not a real white horse. The wisdom and statesmanship of England comes from there being so much of the blood of Israel in the nation. While the terrible revolution of which mention has been made is going on, England will be neutral until it becomes so inhuman that she will interfere to stop the shedding of blood. England and France, they're really not that powerful. I remember the humiliations down in South American islands. As a kid. Okay. Still will be no responsible government, then it will appear to other nations as powerless, as though England has taken possession of the country. The Black Horse will flee to the invaders and will join with them. You mean Trump? Putin? For they will have fear of becoming slaves again. Knowing England did not believe in slavery. What? They just had the scandal with the brand new king when he went to visit Africa. Oh my hell. He's in denial of slavery. What an ass. They believed would make them safe. Armed with British bayonets, the doings of the Black Horse will be terrible. So the prophet said he could not bear to look longer upon the scene as shown him in vision. This isn't Joseph Smith's type of visions. That's why I'm still stumped by the salamander letter of Mark Hoffman's creation. How the prophets could be fooled by that? All leaning over the desk, looking at it. Ooh! And Packers pointing to scripture. Yes, this seems to verify it could be true. It's not Joseph's manner of prophecy. We've already got it all over the scriptures what his manner of prophecy is. This is not it. Continue, he said. During this time, the great white horse will have gathered strength, sending out elders to get the honest in heart among the pale horse of Russia, or people of the United States, to stand by the Constitution of the United States. Yeah. The United States deprived us of our religious freedom to have child bride polygamy. They're evil and need to be overthrown. Join us in overthrowing America. As it was given, that was Oaks, his polygamy crying campaign around the world, given by the inspiration of the Lord. In these days, God will set up a kingdom. Here it is. There it is. It is different than the white horse. He's interesting. He's talking about Salt Lake and Missouri. Maybe. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Yep, here it is. Here's the explanation. In these days, God will set up a kingdom never to be thrown down, for other kingdoms to come unto, and those kingdoms will not let the gospel be preached, will be humbled until they will. Yeah, the church has to be destroyed, and nobody wants Mormons in their countries anymore. That's, again, a failure of Nelson, sort of. As they brag about everybody coming to the headquarters from other nations to bow the knee to Nelson. Well, England, and a list of names of Europe. Considerable amount of the blood of Israel among their people, which must be gathered. These nations will submit to the kingdom of God. England will be the last of these kingdoms to surrender. Crap. Holy crap. Here, Lucifer hands the keys to the church. Here, he's saying they will be threatened to submit. Holy crap. And when she does, she will do it as a whole in comparison as she threw off the Catholic power. The nobility now know that the gospel is true. The Jewish gospel? But it has not enough pomp and grandeur and influence for them to embrace it. He's separating Catholicism from Protestantism, claiming that Protestantism is the supersessionism of Catholicism. No, doesn't work that way. They are proud and will not acknowledge the kingdom of God or come into it until they see the power which it will have. Yeah, and it doesn't have it now. Peace and safety in the Rocky Mountains will be protected by a cordon band of the white horse and the red horse. The coming of the 10 tribes of Israel, the coming of the Messiah among his people. He didn't say Jesus. Will be so natural that only those who see him will know he has come. Oh my God. I was worried this was going to happen. With spiritual witness feelings, only the chosen ones can see Jesus. Oh my God. That's how the church is going to pull it off. Mormons are going to be so desperate to have Jesus be real that they're going to claim they saw him. As some have done in the temples. As Chad Daybell said he saw him. And now he's going to go to prison with the electric chair, I hope. Although it may take too long to have happen. Only those, oh dear God, but he will come. 1984 is what I see here. Jesus on the screen through the president of the church. Jesus wants me to let you know that we have established new laws unto Zion and minister unto you people. This will not be his coming in the clouds of heaven to take vengeance on the world. This is conference weekend. Oh, Nelson, this is humiliating. Oh, Nelson. The temple in Jackson County will be built in this generation. So, yeah, the kingdom of God, you're separating the two now. The saints will think there will not be a time to build it, but with all the great help you will receive, you can put a great temple quickly. Destroy the valley, demand the government pay for it. Church already has multi-trillions hoarded up to pay for it, thus can build it quickly. Before the election this year. You will have gold, silver, precious stones for these things, for only these things only will be used for beautifying the temple. Yeah, because the church has no need for wealth. All the skilled mechanics you want, and the 10 tribes of Israel to help you build it. When you see this land bounded with iron, you may look towards Jackson County. At this point, he made a pause, and looking up, as though the vision was still in view, he said, "There is a land beyond the Rocky Mountains that will be invaded by the heathen Chinese." That's the West Coast. Unless great care and protection is given. Speaking of the heathen nations, where there is no law, there is no condemnation. This will apply to them. Power will be given the white horse to rebuke nations afar off, and they will obey. Not that they will be one with the white horse, but when the law goes forth, they will obey. For the law shall go forth from Zion. Misinterpreting Isaiah there. The last great struggle Zion will have to contend with will be when the whole of America will be made Zion of our God. Sorry, evangelicals. The church has got other plans. You're just the pawns to make it happen. Wow. Dear God. These opposing will be called Gog and Magog. Not Russia and Ukraine, which is the geographical location. Ezekiel 38. The nations of the world led by the Russian Tsar, which is Putin. He's talking about Putin. Putin, it's you. And their power will be great, but all opposition will be overcome. And this land will be the Zion of our God. Putin? Putin? What? Russia and Missouri and America under Putin? What? The nations of the world led by Putin, and their power will be great. He only has one nation. He's struggling to get back what broke off. But all opposition will be overcome. And this land will be the Zion of our God. Candidates are illiterate, so I have to take that into consideration. These words of the prophet made a strong impression upon me. My spiritual witness was tingling. I have never forgotten them. On an occasion, and about 2 weeks later, after I first heard him speak these words, I was at a meeting when he preached a sermon which he said would be the greatest of his life. On that occasion, he illustrated, the matter which I have now written. But he's saying 1843, not 19 July 1840. So I'd have to check the Joseph Smith papers to see if anything is after 2 weeks in May of 1843 on the same subject. So that the subject became finally rooted in my memory, and I know them to be true. Now therefore I testify that these are the inspired words spoken of by Joseph Smith as he stood in heaven. His countenance was white and transparent, stood as if he was calling him the man like Moses, and he's not understanding why. Says powerful words, two-edged sword, signatures. So let's look for that. The josephsmithpapers.org is not secure. Your connection is not private. Attackers might be trying to steal your information from josephsmithpapers.org. Example, passwords, messages, or credit cards. Learn more. Proceed, you bastards. Interesting, they perceived the church as a threat. Hilarious. Alright. Let's go to histories. Manuscript history. And 34, 38 to 42, to July 43, both D and E, but July is the time period, volume D. Okay, view entire manuscript. Oh my God. And for some reason, there's a gray line that won't allow me to click on the scroll thing at the top, or the little scroll bar. And so I have to click on the sidebar until it pulls out, and then I can scroll it all the way down. Oops. We're in the footnotes. Addenda, okay. July. It's May 1843. June. And I'm just assuming I don't see a year on any of this. 43. Okay, there it is. 13th of June. So now we can scroll up, see if we can find anything. Looks like we need to go up quite a bit. 16th. Okay. Earthquake. Terrible fire. So they're reporting news here in the times and seasons. Talking about the Nauvoo Temple. Mr. J.B. Newhall. Is different from anything in ancient or modern history. Specimens of architecture. Interesting. Don't talk about inverted pentagrams. Woodruff, playing in the prairies. Dunham Conference. Aaron Bedstead. Oh, wait a minute. Conference held at Lima, branch organized under the direction of Elder Heber C. Kimball, Danite leader, Isaac Morley, and more. There's Cox, President Walter Cox, and Edwin Whiting, counselors. There you are. So yeah, this is a Danite meeting that was put in here. Yeah, because there's no Joseph Smith, no Hiram. Elder Kimball made some general remarks about the word of wisdom. He commenced by saying that he always despised a penurious principle in any man, and that God despised it also, for he was liberal and did not look at every little thing as we do. He looked at the integrity of the heart of man, he said. Some would strain, nip, and tuck at the word of wisdom, and at the same time, it was a word of wisdom. He's trying to claim, yeah, you're not supposed to be so strict, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Drink the Mountain Dew, it's okay. Quit nipping and tucking, which is what you do for plastic surgery, on women mostly. And they would turn away a poor brother from the door. Aaron Bedstead. No. It's all word of wisdom. Okay. Interesting though. And Jesus, which June 11th, which is continuing with somebody's talk here. It's claiming to be by Joseph. right, June 11th, President Joseph Smith remarked, "I am a rough stone. The sound of the hammer and chisel was never heard in me." Interesting. So the following report is from the Journals of Elders, Willard Richards and Woodruff, as they changed the name of the church after 1840 or 1838. This is a forgery. Interesting. Why didn't you publish it? Why didn't you publish this? I have not the least idea if Christ should come to the earth and preach such rough things as he preached to the Jews, but that this generation would reject him for being so rough. I think this is what he's referring to here. He then took for the next, his text, 37th verse of 23rd chapter of Matthew. Awesome. "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, and as a hen gathers her wings." That's Joseph and Hiram. They were the only ones with the title of prophet. The subject was presented to me since I came to the stand. What was the object of gathering the Jews or the people of God in all ages, in any age of the world? I can never find much to say in expounding a text. A man never has half as much fuss to unlock a door if he has a key as though he had not, and to cut it open with his jackknife. This is not the lingo of Joseph. The main object was to build unto the Lord a house whereby he could reveal unto his people the ordinances of his house and the glories of his kingdom, and teach the people the way of salvation. For there are certain ordinances and principles that when they are taught and practiced must be done in a place or house built for that purpose. It was the design of the council of heaven before the world was that the principles and laws of the priesthood were predicated upon the gathering of the people in every age of the world. The principles of righteousness, not the principle of gathering. Jesus did everything possible to gather the people, and they would not be gathered, and therefore failed in getting a second chance to destroy people. Poured out curses upon them. This is not Joseph. Ordinances instituted in the heavens before the foundation of the world, in the priesthood for the salvation of man, are not to be altered or changed. Must be saved on the same principles. For why didn't this get published? You went out of your way to forge this, and you didn't publish it? For it is for the same purpose that God gathers his people in the last days, to build the Lord a house, to prepare them for the ordinances and endowments of washings and anointings. And one of the ordinances of the house of the Lord is baptism for the dead. Notice there are no others. Notice, God decreed before the foundation of the world, because Brigham established the endowment ceremony with those covenant ordinance paths. Administered in a font. So they're trying to make it sound like Joseph, and in so doing they reveal that Brigham Young is the creator of the endowment ceremony. The Purim principle brought up again. If man gets the fullness of the priesthood of God, he has to get it in the same way that Jesus Christ obtained it, keeping all the commandments and obeying all the ordinances of the house of the Lord. Nope. That's Brigham and Oaks. That is not Joseph. Wow. Okay, let's see. Anything to do with latter days, otherwise we're done. So the kingdom, ordinances come short, spirits in prison, paradise, doctrine of baptism for the dead, hen gathereth their chickens, receive revelation from heaven. Oh, God. Jesus was crucified. I will criticize a little further. Word of hell. Sectarian. I'll hunt after Hades, as Pat did for the woodchuck. Hades the Greek, or Sheol the Hebrew. They're even trying to throw in some translation. Dear God. These two significations mean the world of spirits. Hades, Sheol, paradise, spirits in prison are all one, and it is a world of spirits. Righteous and the wicked all go to the same world of spirits until the resurrection. I do not think so, says one. I will take my lexicon and prove it to you. Why didn't Michael Watson refer me to this? The sectarian priests are blind. They'll fall into the ditch. Any man that may believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and be happy in that belief and yet not obey his commandments, and at the last be cut down for his disobedience to his religious requirements. This is not Joseph. Fascinating. A very long one too, my hell. I have the Spirit of God, but away with Joe Smith. He says he is a prophet, but there are to be no prophets or revelators in the last days. Stop, sir. The Revelator says that the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. So by your own mouth you are condemned. But to the text, why gather the people together in this place? It's talking about the gathering, but not... Huh. Well, it's supposedly by Joseph, but there's no... It's the conference with the Danites. There is no date. It's just a continuation of June 11th, claimed to be by Joseph, when that's in the Journal of Elders. Huh. Hymn by the choir. Parley P. Pratt singing. Yeah, forged document they put in here, claiming to be by Joseph, and they never bothered to publish it. Fascinating. Okay. We are done. Camera didn't freeze. Good.